Hey guys, Jaw with JRSP. So before we start this video, I want to just talk about today's sponsor. And JRSP, by the way, stands for Johnson Reality Self Protection. Forgot to say that. Always got to say that. But let's talk about today's sponsor, Takumi Talk Knives. Okay, we got the Takumi Talk Sparky right here. Okay, we got the Takumi Talk Ninja. Okay. Oh man, that's a bad one right there. Oh, anybody on the bad side of that right there? That's a beefy knife right there. That's got a lot of links to it right there. Yeah, that's nice, grippy handle. I don't know if you can see that because I'm not a professional YouTuber, so I don't got one of those halo lights and everything. So whatnot, like yeah, but. I don't know if you see the handles there. There it is right there. Really nice. Full tang. Like, all the talking we talk stuff. I mean, and this is part of their budget line. Their 3RC, whatever, like steel. Not super steel blades, but you don't need a super steel to defend your life with. You don't need to break your bank sometimes to get the job done. But yeah, so the Sparky, the Ninja, the little buddy around the neck right here. I've seen that one right there. Yeah, really like this little knife. Carry it often as a neck knife underneath the shirt, just as a last ditch effort a lot of times. Really great little knife. We got the Takumi Talk Void. Okay, all steel construction, no handle scales, super thin right here. You can see, but super, you know, nice design. It is double edged, guys. So I mean, this isn't for bushcraft survival and everything. This has one purpose. As Donnie B all day, who got me into Takumi Talk knives. I've never met the dude or whatever, but I watched his video about the Takumi Talk muted, and as he said in that video, the muted was a single purpose knife, and so is the void. This is a single purpose knife. This is for messing someone up who, you know, crossed the line and you had to go Medusa on him. Okay, so of course, we've got the muted here on the belt. My favorite knife from Takumi Talk so far. It's like my EDSDC, everyday self defense carrier, whatever it's like, or everyday personal protection carrier. I guess that's it should be called. Uh, great, great knife. Like I say, not a super steel, but a super design. Okay, this is we've talked about this knife on this channel, and a lot of people, out there on the market we're talking about this knife, the Beckwith Covert or whatever, or something like that. I'm not saying that it's not a great knife, okay, but I'm just saying that it's a pretty pricey knife, and some people be like, well, how much is your life worth? Well, this didn't cost anywhere near what a Beckwith Covert is going to cost, and I think it's a better design. I mean, look at that right there. That thing, it's got that hybrid modified Tanto there, and then it's got that kind of a K-bar TDI kind of tilt to it, but it's got more handle than the K-bar TDI, so you can get your whole hand on this thing right here. A lot of people like these 3-finger knives and stuff. I'm really not fond of them, even if it has a smaller blade. I want something I could wrap my whole hand around. I just never have liked that. Oh, it's just a 3-finger knife thing. It's like I want something I can get my whole hand on. So then, if I have to use Medusa methods on you. If I have to go Medusa on somebody, it like was the absolute last resort because I don't play around like that. And I know the value of life and everything. The last thing I want to have to do is use lethal force on somebody and have to kill them. So that all being said, I said that Takumi Talk was the sponsor of this video. That was a complete lie. Takumi Talk hasn't paid me a dime to talk about their knives. They have never reached out to me or sent me a knife. All these knives I bought with my own money. That's just how much I love Takumi Talk. And, you know, this will probably be the last time that I talk about them unless I get another Takumi Talk knife, which I don't know if I'm going to buy another Takumi Talk knife in the future because there's some other knives that I want to talk about. And you guys seem to like the knife reviews. They get a lot of views on this channel. So I think I'm going to start talking about some other knives. I got some other knives that I got my eye on that I want to get that may even like become some EDCs or and stuff like that. And I do carry like one of the knives that I use like on a daily at my job, is, and like I said, I don't like these little 3-finger knives, but I do carry this thing on a daily and use it all the time. And it is a little freaking 3-finger knife. But let me tell you, this isn't for self protection or anything. I just use this for basically everyday task. This is like the embodiment of an EDC for me. And yeah, I don't like 3-finger knives, but I have been carrying this every day in the pocket, like, and I use it for almost everything. So, but I would have liked. This is a 2 knife. This isn't a Takumi Talk, by the way. Um, and I would have liked it to have more handle. That's the only complaint, that I would have liked the same knife with a longer handle that I could get like at least my pinky around. I wouldn't mind that. It's like, I don't know why so many people like these 3-finger knives, but all that being said, this knife isn't about, or this video is not about Takumi Talk. This video is about who the 8 stabs of Seardo. Okay, and as you see here, we got our Yojimbo trainer knife from Tack Knives. Tack Knives with spelled T-A-K, not T-A-C-K. Tack Knives, T-A-K. They make a bunch of trainers and all kinds of cool stuff. I got this one because I just like the design of it. It's modeled after the Spyderco Yojimbo knife, but this is what I use when training on Bob over here, because my Medusa instructor, Brian Canada, he is real big on just using a live blade and putting holes in Bob. Okay, he says that he feels that's the way to go because um, you're getting the actual feeling of a blade going in, so like that's all great. I definitely agree with him on that. But if you have a bob, you know how much bob costs. And here in the future, I'm going to purchase another bob just to stab for Medusa training, because I look to be a Medusa edge weapon certified like instructor here soon. But love Medusa. It's very like along the lines of how I think, and when I saw it and like read the manuals, I've read both manuals multiple times, and that's how I trained. But I created a system long before I ever knew anything about Medusa, which was called Seardo, and Seardo is a more complete system. Medusa is basically a point driven system. It's about basically, you know, it's it's just to the point. Basically, it's basically, oh, you're in a situation and it's built upon shock latch and stab, and so can you make Medusa like a whole fleshed out system? Yeah, it absolutely can be turned into that, but Medusa as it is, and I want to be a Medusa purist, Medusa is really just like point A to point B, basically, but it's about using a sharp object to protect yourself. And like, there's no slashing in Medusa, there's just stabbing, and that's what it is. But that being said, I made Seardo a long time ago. I made Seardo back in 2015, and it's an in-depth system. We're going to talk a lot about Seardo on this channel, and Medusa as well. But Seardo has a edged weapon component like in it, along with a bunch of other stuff as well. But Seardo stands for simple, effective, aggressive, realistic, and Do stands for way. You put those together, and you have the simple, effective, aggressive, realistic way, or translated into um, the way of simple, effective, aggressive, realism, I guess. Um, but anyhow, we're talking about the 8 stabs of Seardo. Seardo does also have slashes as well. We're going to go over those in another video. But unlike in Medusa, I believe that slashes still have their place. Like, and even my Medusa instructor, Brian Canada, he is also a Filipino martial arts instructor, and like really, he's just a great dude, like great instructor. But he also like preaches the usefulness of some slashes. Like he's a Medusa Edge weapon instructor, of course, but being the fact that he's also a Filipino martial arts guy, like, and I think he was a Filipino martial arts guy before he ever became a Medusa instructor. So, um, you know, yeah, Medusa is to the point. There's no slashes, just stabs, because basically, if you're having to use Medusa in a situation, the situation is that bad. The situation basically has called for lethal force, and the situation like has called for. I mean, at that point, uh, if anybody's walking away, it's not in a good situation. Like, if you have to pull a live blade on somebody, it's going to be bad. But let's get into Seardo and the Seardo stabs. Medusa only has 6 stabs in its like main configuration. But like I said, I made Seardo way before I ever knew anything about Medusa, and Seardo is built upon. It's way more in depth and detailed. Um, like Seardo is built upon the uh, 4 trajectories, and you got 8 angles of attack, and you move in basically circular motion or circular movement. And if you look at our emblem or our symbol, it should be probably up on this channel. Like you'll see it's a circle with an octagon with a triangle. Okay, like because that embodies everything that is Seardo. Basically, you got your 4 trajectories, which equal into 8 angles of attack, and everything operating circularly. Well, and so right here, if y'all can see this, to bring the camera a little bit closer in. I don't know if y'all can see. So the first Seardo stab is gonna be operating on. Let me see. Let's just talk about the trajectories real quick. Okay, so you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Those 4 trajectories. That makes like a star pattern, basically. 1, 2, 3, 4. Like, so you have basically like an X, like basically an X and a plus sign, like merged together. Like, visualize that in your mind. Okay, and we're coming in for the first stab on the diagonal trajectory, which, because basically you got diagonal, horizontal, vertical. Those are the 4 trajectories. Okay, 2 diagonals, one horizontal, and one vertical. Okay, so this first stab, like, is going to be coming in onto the diagonal trajectory, and it's coming down like that right there, right into the side of the neck. It's coming down. So if y'all can see that, like, that's stab one in forward grip. I forgot to mention forward grip, like, because you have 4 stabs in forward grip, and then you have 4 stabs in reverse grip. So that's the first stab of forward grip. That's why there's 8 stabs, because you got 4 stabs in forward grip and 4 stabs in reverse. So that's number one. It comes down on the diagonal trajectory. Then stab 2 is going to be coming into the horizontal. Like, it could either be the horizontal, or it could also be coming up on the opposite diagonal. At that point, it's just what works best, because everything in Seardo, we say everything is a concept until you prove it to be like a fact in reality. Like, I mean, I can sit here and tell you this. Oh, this is gonna work in like whatever, and it never worked. But that can be with anything. That could be like you're going to jujitsu and they're like, oh, yeah, this will definitely work, and it not work. Everything is a concept until you prove it to be a fact in reality. Always remember that, because what works for your instructor may not work for you. Okay, and it may just be as simple as, well, your instructor's 5 feet tall and you're 6'4", and because of the size difference, what worked for him won't work for you. Plain and simple as that. But anyhow, let's move into the next stab. It's going to be coming in. My preference is on the horizontal trajectory right here. If y'all can see that, I don't know if y'all can see. Coming into these floating ribs. But that works in a perfect world, but some of these people may be having their elbows down. You may not be able to get in there like on a horizontal. You may have to operate on that opposite diagonal, coming up. And it may have to be not to the floating ribs. It may have to kind of be to the lower abdomen in a way. So that's stab 2 in forward grip. So your third stab is going to be on the vertical trajectory, and it can be to the groin or to the lower abdomen. So it's going to look like this. Get out of the way so y'all can see. It's going to be coming into the right here in the lower abdomen area, or to the groin area. So, and that's operating on that vertical plane or that vertical trajectory right there. And then the last stab is also on the vertical trajectory, and it is either going into the throat. It's like a thrusting motion, but this can be 2 different things, okay? Because it just depends on what you can get at that moment. It could either be a kind of a scooping, kind of like an uppercut motion, I guess you could say, like going into the throat or going into the bottom of the jaw and up into the mouth and into the brain or something like that right there. Or it could be just a thrust into the throat right there. A nice turning thrust as well. Well, so that is your 4th stab in forward grip for Seardo. And wow, this video is already at 19 minutes. Wow. So your reverse grip, your first reverse grip stab, once again operating on the diagonal trajectory coming down, or diagonal, diagonal trajectory, yeah. So it's gonna look like that right there, coming into the side of the neck, just like the forward grip stab. It's just reverse, you know. So then, almost just the same, like it's just in reverse grip. That's why it's Seardo. It's simple, effective, aggressive, realistic. We try and keep things simple in Seardo. So coming in that horizontal trajectory again, same concept as well. Like if you can't get that horizontal trajectory, you can still go for that opposite diagonal. So that is the second stab in reverse grip for Seardo's stabbing. So this is where it gets a little different right here, but still similar, same concepts. So your third stab is going to once again be a lower stab, but the difference, I'm going to change hands so y'all can see it, like, but as in to say in Medusa, don't ever change hands in the middle of a conflict. But like, it's going to be to the groin, once again, to the groin or to the lower abdomen. And it's really going to look more like this, like less like this right here. I'm doing this because I'm having to take this angle so y'all could see what I'm doing. But it looks more like this going down, and then of course your fourth stab is going to be the same thing but going high, so it's like right here, and then fourth stab goes high into the throat like that right there, but at the same time, you can go into the face, depending on, it's like every violent encounter, altercation, whatever, is going to be moving. So it's like it's always great to demonstrate things on a static target, okay? Like Bob is stationary. He doesn't move around. He doesn't have any arguments. He is just an anatomical reference of what a human's going to feel like, but he doesn't move around, okay? In a real world situation, the person's going to be moving around and stuff and trying not to get stabbed. And that's why Medusa comes in, because Medusa teaches you to, latch and then go for what you're going to do, So if we were doing Medusa, like these stabs that I was doing like this, you're going to have to modify them. They're not going to be like this anymore. They're going to be like on the inside right here, But your horizontal stabs can still be like that right there. Your diagonal stab can still be diagonal, but like the stabs that you go for your lower abdomen or your groin stab or your neck stab, now they have to be converted to an inward strike. If you're latching on to somebody and stabbing them while you have a hold of them, but like I say, people don't, like, if they know a knife's in the game, they're not gonna want to just stand there and get stabbed. Nobody's gonna stand around. A lot of people are just gonna flee or whatnot. The difference between a knife and a gun when it comes to stopping power is that, a knife has no stopping power unless, people know that it's in the game. Okay, because you can be like stabbing someone to death. Okay, you could be on the receiving end getting stabbed to death and not even, with your adrenaline all up, not even know that it's happening, because a knife can just penetrate in so flawlessly that you don't even feel it going in. You don't feel it piercing vital organs and stuff and killing you. All you feel is the impact, and you think that this person's just hitting you. Unless the person says, I got a knife, and shows it to you. Like, if you have to pull a knife on somebody, if you want stopping power, you need to, like, maybe let it be known that the knife's in the game, because then it's going to register in their brain, and they're going to be like, oh man, now it's like this guy has a knife, and anything, you may just be hitting him at that point, but he's going to think he's getting stabbed, because the brain knows the knife's in the game. Whereas with a gun, um, a gun has so much stopping power. A gun sometimes is overkill, because a gun goes bang, and you can freaking pull out a gun in like. And I'm not saying to do this. I never do this, but I'm just saying you can watch videos where people have done similar things. Okay, you don't even have to fire the gun. Okay, you can walk into a crowded place and pull a gun out and start swinging it around, and people are going to flee. Okay, so then just imagine, it's like when people hear gunshots, they run for their lives. They don't even know what's going on. They don't even know where the gunshots are coming from. They just run. They may be running in the direction of the gunshots. Okay, so the gun has stopping power just in the fact that people know how dangerous and like effective and like terrible guns can be. And I'm not anti-gun. I carry guns. I have guns. I'm not a gun lover, so to say, but I like to say I have guns, because it's always good to have a gun in a gunfight. Because if you don't have a gun and you're in a gunfight, you're on the bad side of that fight. I say it all the time. It's like that's a term that I have coined. I'm the only one that I've ever heard say that. But it's common sense. If you're in a gunfight and you don't have a gun, well, see, that's the difference between what we do at Seardo and everything. It's like we don't train to be fighters. Okay, we are neutralizers. But I mean, if you're in a fight, that means that it was like a mutual thing a lot of times. So if you're in a gunfight and you don't have a gun, well, it's like you're on the bad side of that fight, because the other guy who has a gun, he's got all the power. So, like, guns go bang. Guns, like, just the stigma of guns. Like, people are going to, like, a gun comes into the situation, it's like most times people are going to flee. Okay, a knife comes into the situation, a lot of times it's like we've talked about the Apple River stabbing case on this channel. Go look it up, watch it in detail, and you'll see every little thing that I've said about knives. The guy pulled a knife out. The people who were in immediate danger didn't know it was out, and he was already stabbing them, and they didn't even know they were getting stabbed. Okay, and the one guy who saw it, like, he didn't get stabbed, because he saw it and it was like, I got a knife, and he got way back. Okay, like, but the people who were right there, drunk and stuff like that, they never knew he had a knife, and they got all stabbed up, and they didn't even know they were stabbed until they were in a bad way. One dude died. And by the way, like, I don't feel that the dude was entirely in the wrong for pulling a knife and defending himself, because he was highly outnumbered. It was a bad situation. I think the only thing that he really did wrong was that he tossed the knife, and then he lied, and then he showed no remorse. So, but I mean, like, he was outnumbered by 13 people, and like they're like hitting him and pushing him, and then he's getting hit in the face by dudes and shoved in the water, and he's an older man and stuff like that. I mean, he's surrounded by people we don't know who are attacking him at that point, and it's like, what can you do? You got to have something, like, to equalize the situation, like, and sometimes lethal force is required. Like, I mean, it was a bad situation all the way around. But like I say, yeah, those are the 8 stabs of Seardo. We're gonna talk about a lot more stuff in Seardo, because it's an in-depth system. Like, but everything's designed to be, like, super simple in Seardo. Even when we talk about striking, okay, we don't say, the terminology is simple, the techniques are simple. They're not like just like your average techniques, because how I train, it's like it's best to just train to be able to do something, to be able to move your body. It's like it's great to train for perfection. It's great to train every day. The more you train, the more you'll realize like how to do things in a better way. Your body will get used, and it'll become first nature instead of second nature. Like it'll come, and that's what you want to train in. But like people like I think it's Mas Oyama or whatever. Like I may be butchering that name. I may be completely incorrect. But the founder of Kyokushin Karate, I mean, the dude went into the woods and trained by himself and made his own system. Most of the martial art systems and stuff today, they were made by somebody who just went and made a system. It's like they weren't trained and stuff like that. They just had an idea and they just decided to make a system, and that's what I did. But I've trained in, uh, you know, Sandy kickboxing. I trained in judo. Like I've said, judo. The judo that I trained in wasn't tournament style judo, and that's it's weird to say this, like because it's like you hear people say stupid stuff like this all the time. And it's like, oh man, now he's trying to make it like mysticism and stuff like that. It's like, no, I'm just being honest with you. Like I don't lie to you. Like the guy, he was a black belt in many different black belts or many different martial arts, and um the judo that he taught was not like freaking Kodokan judo. It wasn't like Olympic style judo. He went back to more of a older style of judo. Like if you read any of Jigoro Kano's book, well, like his book, the book that he read, like it's basically Jigoro Kano. He took jujutsu and made it into judo, but like he kind of brought everything, like all the other arts, like freaking Yuwara jutsu and stuff like that, and whatever, and kind of like merged them together. But then it became judo, and then it became a sport. The only reason that judo looks like it is today is because in order for judo to survive, he felt it had to become a sport. But that's a story for another day. But and don't crucify me about that. Read his book. But yeah, I did 5 months judo, 7 months stand kickboxing. I did the 10-week Cobra Self Defense Academy. I've done a bunch of different seminars. I've freaking done a bunch of different stuff. So, you know, um, and I've absorbed a bunch of material and content, and this is just a passion of mine. Like self protection, self defense, self preservation. So that's how I was able to make a system, because I've always wanted to do this. I've always wanted to give something to the world, especially after I saw 9/11 on TV as a 12-year-old. That really made me, that sparked the fire in me, and from then on, I was a different person. And from that day on till this day, I'm always carrying weapons and stuff. I'm always ready. And I always know that none of us are exempt from of something violent happening to us. Okay, if you've never been in a situation, an altercation in your life, you're not exempt. Okay, you're not special. You're just lucky. You're just fortunate, and like that doesn't mean that your encounter isn't just around the corner. And if you're not prepared, it may be fatal. But those are the stabs of Seardo, like I say, like in Seardo, real quick, like terminologies, um, stuff like as simple as like a punch. It's not a jab. We don't have jabs in Seardo. Like thing, both punches are more of akin to a cross punch, because that's where you can draw your power. But we don't call them cross punches or thrust punch or anything stupid. We just say thrust punch because you're thrusting out. If we're doing some type of hooking punch, we just call it a turning punch, because you're turning your body, rotating those hips. Guess it could be called a rotating punch. Now that I think about it, maybe that would be a better terminology, but for years it's just been called a turning punch for us. But this video is dragged on for long enough. Hey guys, I'm Ja, and this is JRSP, Johnson Reality Self Protection. Look forward for more videos, especially about Seardo. Hopefully here before long I get certified in the Produce Edge weapon system, and look for content on that, because I hope to really shine a light on that and bring that to the forefront and make that as big as we can make it. Because not because any of us are trying to be cocky or anything, just because everybody needs to know it. Every woman should be carrying a knife or something, and so many people are just walking out their front door unprepared, and I can't stand it, because like I say, they're not exempt. You're not exempt from your moment coming, your attack. You're not exempt. You've just been fortunate up till now. And there's plenty of options available out there on the market for you to carry and stuff like that. You don't have to carry a gun if you're anti-gun. You don't have to carry a knife if you're anti-knife. If you can carry pepper spray, you can carry. There's plenty of options out there. And a lot of you are just being lazy, and a lot of you are just naive, and it ticks me off. Because I watch I watch a lot of videos where, the woman, she just wandered away from the pack, as Christopher Sutton would say. She, met this guy online and knew nothing about him and stuff like that. And then, she turned up dead. Okay. It's like none of you are exempt from your attack. And that's why it's important to be prepared. And people call me paranoid, but I would rather be paranoid and alive than complacent and dead. That's another saying that I use all the time. And, I don't think I'm paranoid at all. I think I'm just ready, and I watch a YouTube channel called Black Scout Survival. And, that guy is always talking about the importance of being ready, because, stuff could pop off at any minute. So it's just very important to focus on your training. I train every day with what I carry. I train, if I'm not training physically every day, because I do work all the time, if I'm not training physically every day, I am training in my mind as well, because you know really, self-protection, self-defense, all this stuff, it's 90% mental and 1% physical, because you got to have, just like Waste and Johnny Tsai, or Johnny Tsai, he's a kung fu guy. He put out a book years ago called Street Kung Fu or whatever, and I read the book. It's a great book, and I own it in paperback, and I own it on Kindle because it was such a great book. But in that book, he says, unless you have, the confidence and conviction to pull that mental trigger, all the training in the world doesn't matter. I've been in situations, I know that I'm ready. I know that I have what it takes to pull that trigger, but I also know, like I always like to say, when you can, it's always best just to walk away. So, hey, you guys take it easy.